Hi, welcome to the Digital Citizenship-Legal webinar. This project was created by Corinna Peters, Diane Werner, and Katie Petty. An overview of what we're going to talk about today are the legal and ethical use of digital information and technology, intellectual property, what it is and how to protect it, and citing sources. What is plagiarism? How do you protect yourself against plagiarism? How to not commit plagiarism, and how to cite your sources specifically. We're going to start with the legal and ethical use of digital information. First of all, it's important to know what digital citizenship means. Digital citizenship can be defined as the norms of appropriate, responsible behavior regarding technology use. For me as a teacher, the two key words here are appropriate and responsible. By now, we've all had access to the internet and the information on the internet, but we haven't all been taught the appropriate and responsible behavior that goes with using that information. For instance, copying and pasting is something that people commonly do. However, if you take that information and pass it off as your own, that's plagiarism, which is not appropriate or responsible. On that same note, social networking can be a great tool for educators to connect with other colleagues and students from all over the world. However, the use of some social networks in an educational environment is not appropriate. So it's important to know the difference between what is appropriate in the educational setting and what is not, and to model and teach our students that same information. Okay, I'm going to show you a video on digital citizenship on YouTube. It's called A Vision of K-12 Students Today, and it models the desire of our student revolving around technology, what teachers need to be aware of with these digital natives, and what we as educators need to improve on and can do for them. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring that up. Okay. The reason I wanted to show that video, and my group wants to show that video, is because it's so important in digital citizenship. Our students are growing up as digital natives. They have easy access to technology, they use it every day, and we as educators have to stay one step ahead of them so that we can teach them how to use that information responsibly, how to use that information appropriately, and how to use it to benefit their education. The ISTE has some National Education Technology Standards called NETS for teachers. The guideline is to promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility. Teachers are supposed to understand the local and societal issues in an evolving digital culture and exhibit legal and ethical behavior in their professional practices. This is absolutely essential for all teachers. Number one, we have to be aware of what's going on in the world, especially revolving around technology. Technology is changing so rapidly that if we want to help our students to fit into the global world, we have to be able to prepare them through technology. It's also important that we teach them ethical behavior and that we understand ourselves the legal and ethical behavior and model them in our professional practices. This is just a diagram of IST's educational technology standards. These are for students and teachers, and the different divisions they have them broken down to are creativity and innovation, communication and collaboration, research and information fluency, critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making, digital citizenship, which is the focus of our webinar, and technology operations and concepts. Some specific standards for teachers in the NETS, or National Educational Technology Standards, are to advocate, model, and teach ethical use of digital information and technology, including the respect for copyright information, intellectual property, and the appropriate documentation of sources. We are going to discuss copyright, also intellectual property, and the appropriate documentation of sources in the webinar. Teachers are also supposed to be able to address the diverse needs of all learners by using learner-centered strategies and providing equitable access to appropriate digital tools and resources. Teachers are just supposed to promote and model digital etiquette and responsible social interactions related to the use of technology and information. Teachers are supposed to develop and model cultural understanding and global awareness by engaging with colleagues and students of other cultures using digital age communication and collaboration tools. This is an awesome point that teachers need to be more aware of. For instance, a student in my class recently, while we were studying Asia, said, "Do you think that students in China have to study about America the way we study about Asia?" Wow, what a great question. It would be such an amazing tool for me to get on Skype or some other communication tool, and instead of having a pen pal, be able to talk to a student from China face to face and say, "What are you learning about America in school, or are you?" And so our students would have that relationship and understand where they fit in the world. Why should we care about legal and ethical use of digital information? Well, number one, we don't want to break the law. There are laws on the books governing copyright, governing piracy, governing plagiarism, and we want to be law-abiding citizens, because if we're not, we could be faced with fines and even jail time. Secondly, we want to respect others' intellectual property. And again, later in the webinar, we're going to be talking about intellectual property, but it's respecting other people's ideas and creativity. We want to set a good example for our students. We as teachers have to model the correct and appropriate behavior we want our students to follow. They look at us as role models, and they look at us to teach them the information that they don't know. So we need to teach them from the get-go how to do things right. And then also we would want others to respect us and our creations, and so in turn we need to respect those who've created work. As Gandhi once said, we must be the change we wish to see in the world. So we have to model the ethical and legal ethics and responsibilities behind digital citizenship so that our students in the future continue to do what's right. What is legal and ethical use of digital information? It's basically to know what you can use and can't use. Fair use says as long as you're using information for research, education, parody, or news, you can use the information. You just can't use it for personal gain or profit. So a teacher giving a lecture can use information off of the internet or a PowerPoint. They just cannot use that information to gain any kind of awards or raise any kind of money if it's not their original work. Also, copyright laws basically say that everything today is currently copyrighted under the all rights reserved copyright. It doesn't have to be stated anymore. So if you're looking for that copyright symbol and it's not there, that doesn't automatically mean that it's not copyrighted. Copyright is implied. And then you can have Creative Commons licenses. This allows some rights reserved. So for instance, you create a work and you do want others to be able to share and use it, but possibly not in every single way. You can create specific licenses for your work. So I'm going to take you to a website called creativecommons.org/licenses, and there's a video on it that we are going to watch, but also on this website, creativecommons.org, you can design specifically a license for a piece of work that you choose and tailor it to what you want others to be able to use and not use. I'm just going to scroll down here so you can see the difference in some of these licenses. This first one, for example, says, lets others distribute, remix, tweak, and build upon your work, even commercially, as long as they credit you for their original creation. And then down here, we have basically the same thing. It says this license lets others remix, tweak, and build upon your work non-commercially, as long as they credit you and license their new creations under the identical terms. So you can custom tailor licenses, copyright licenses, to fit your work and what you want to be able to share with others. I'm going to take you to the Creative License video now.
When you share your creativity, you're enabling people anywhere to use it, learn from it, and be inspired by it. Take the teacher who shapes young minds with work and wisdom from around the globe, and the artist who builds beauty out of bits and pieces she finds online, and the writer whose stories use ideas and images crafted by people you've never even met. These people know that when you share your creative wealth, you can accomplish great things. They and millions of other people all around the planet are working together to build a richer, better, more vibrant culture using Creative Commons. To understand Creative Commons, you need to know a little bit about how copyright works. Did you know that when you create something, anything, from a photograph to a song, to a drawing, to a film, to a story, you automatically own an all rights reserved copyright to that creativity? It's true. Copyright protects your creativity against uses you don't consent to. But sometimes full copyright is too restrictive. What about when you want all those millions and millions of people out there to use your work without the hassle of coming to you for permission? What if you want your work to be freely shared, reused, and built upon by the rest of the world? Luckily, there's an answer. Creative Commons. We provide free copyright licenses you can use to tell people exactly which parts of your copyright you're happy to give to the public. It's easy. It only takes a minute and it's totally free. Just come to our website and answer a few quick questions like, will you allow commercial uses of your work? And will you allow your work to be modified? based on your answers, we'll give you a license that clearly communicates what people can and can't do with your creativity. You don't give up your copyright. You refine it so it works better for you. Welcome to a new world where collaboration rules. It didn't even exist just a few years ago, but now there are millions and millions of songs, pictures, videos, and written works available to share, reuse, and remix, all for free. Want to work together? Then join the Commons. Creative Commons.
And so again, now you can custom create a copyright license to fit any piece of work that you create and custom tailor it to what you want shared and what you don't want shared and what you want others to do with that work. Okay, so another factor having to do with the legal and ethical use of digital information is equal accessibility. It's important that digital environments should be accessible to everyone, just like real environments. That comes from the Americans with Disabilities Act. To think about how people with disabilities can access information is important, and they can use digital information in such ways as screen readers, closed captioning. For example, my library where I live has an adaptive technology center that just opened that enables people with vision disabilities to have closed screen readers, monitors. It allows for special keyboarding, voice-activated typing, and it's important that everyone have this same accessibility to digital information. There are some websites that offer ready-made lessons for teaching copyright and fair use laws, and these are a good way to model this information for your students. So I'm going to go to www.readwritethink.org and take you through a lesson on copyright infringement and the debate over downloading music. I come from the Napster generation, before you had to pay for Napster, where you could download music for free. And so there's this big debate over whether that's an infringement on copyrighted music and licenses. And so on this readwritethink.org website, you can actually take your students through this lesson. And I love this lesson and this website because it gives you everything you need to teach the topic. It gives you the overview. You can see, let me close this out. You can see the national standards. And again, these are the national standards, not your TEKS or Texas standards specifically. It tells you what resources you're going to need, what type of preparation is involved. It's got interactives and websites you can go to. Here are some things you can print out to give to your students with the lesson. I love that, but my favorite part is the instructional plan. It tells you your student objectives, but more importantly, it gives you a step-by-step of how to run the lesson. Ask students to respond to the following questions in their journals. Bam, it lists them right there. That's really exciting because as teachers, we don't always have a lot of time to research this information ourselves and create lessons from scratch. You don't have to. It's all right here. And it takes you through all of the different lessons. It has links to different websites and printables. And so this is a real easy way that a teacher, maybe an English teacher or a social studies teacher who is assigning an essay, can teach their students about copyright or any legal or ethical issue involving technology. readwritethink.org, very good website. Okay, so now we're going to look for a minute at intellectual property. What is intellectual property? Well, the government defines intellectual property as any innovation, commercial or artistic, or any unique name, symbol, logo, or design used commercially. So basically, intellectual property is anything that you create and use commercially. Any idea, any design, any logo, any writing, any phrase that you create to use commercially belongs to you. Why is intellectual property important? Intellectual property is important because it is what keeps our culture functioning and creative. Our government again says intellectual property protection is critical to fostering innovation, that creativity that our culture thrives on. If the protection for this property did not exist, ideas would not be protected. Therefore, the creator would not receive the credit for their creation. This in turn would affect cultural vitality. Why be creative if no one's going to notice? So why should we worry about protecting our intellectual property? StopFakes.gov says that intellectual property theft poses a threat to all industry sectors. Those most commonly affected by IP theft are manufacturing, consumer goods, technology, software, and biotechnology, including pharmaceuticals. This, for example, would be where piracy or counterfeiting fits in. Piracy and counterfeiting and theft of intellectual property assets poses a serious threat to all American businesses, because when someone, let's say, creates a movie for profit, and then those movies are pirated and counterfeited and sold and not sold under the company, then they're not making the money off of it, which is the reason that they created the work in the first place. So our businesses are losing out on revenue because of these crimes. How do we protect our intellectual property? Well, there's a couple of ways. The first one is to patent your information, patent your ideas. That means they're yours, you own them, you claim ownership over them, and they cannot be duplicated in their original form. Some different types of patents are utility patents, design patents, and plan patents. Another way to protect your property is to copyright. I took you through the video on why copyright is important, and this says that you do not want others copying your work, that's your work and you want the credit for your work. And then trade secrets is another way to protect your property, dealing with trade and the selling of your information commercially. USPTO says it's the ownership of a dream, an idea, an improvement, or an emotion that we can touch, see, hear, and feel. So intellectual property is an idea. It's your idea. And if you want your idea protected, these listed on this slide are some ways to do it. The number one thing that jumps out at me would be copyright. If you want your idea on paper, on the web, and you don't want anyone else to use it, copyright it, or go to Creative Commons and create a specific license for what you want people to be able